Alright, what is happening, guys? Today I'll be doing a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now, and that is my college acceptance story, how I got into Princeton, how I got into the different schools I got accepted to. My last video I did how to get into the Ivy League. Today we'll be talking just facts, statistics, my GPA, scores, things like that. Before I begin, I just want to make sure I'm super transparent. I know this video is going to get a lot of shit from my high schoolers who are super petty and like to hate on people who are successful, which is super annoying. But I don't want to come off like I'm bragging or being boastful or anything. I just want to be 100% truthful with you guys so you know what it takes to get into these caliber schools. And so you have a better idea, because I know when I was going through the application process, I was going through College Confidential, looking at what scores got people into certain schools. And so if I can share my story to help you guys, then I'm happy to do it. Alright, so first off, let's talk about my high school. I went to Flymount High School, which is big Texas public high school. We had about 900 kids in our graduating class. I graduated number 24, which is a huge deal for me. The top 25 students got to sit in the front row at graduation, which is a huge milestone for me. I've been grinding my ass off for the past 4 years trying to get that, and I was super proud of myself for achieving that. But our GPA was kind of on a weird scale. I don't even remember it, and it probably wouldn't be helpful to you guys because every school kind of grades differently. But as far as like on a 4.0 scale, I'm pretty sure, I can't even find my transcript, but it was something like a 3.95 out of 4.0. I honestly don't even remember that, so I can't share that with you. If I find it, I'll do an update. But the things that you guys are probably most interested in are the test scores. So I took a lot of tests. I was doing a lot of ACT, SAT prep before I took my actual test. Probably took about almost 5 to 6 tests total. I can't really remember because it was a lot of my sophomore, junior year. I tried to finish it up by senior year. Alright, so I pulled up College Board trying to find my exact scores. So I took the old SAT twice. Once was December 5th, 2015, so my junior year. On that one, I got a 2080. 660 on critical reading, 750 on mathematics, 670 on writing. And then a month later, I took it in January, the same old SAT. I got a 710 on reading, 770 on math, and then 690 on writing, which was a 2170. That was the old SAT. I mean, obviously you guys don't have that anymore, but it helps you put it into perspective based on the 2400 scale. And then in March 5th, 2016, that's kind of when they revamped it, which is super annoying. And now they only split it up into the two sections. So on math, I got a 770, and then reading and writing, I got a 730, which was a combined score of 1500. As far as PSAT, my score was a 1470. In Texas, the cutoff was a 220, which is like your cumulative for the National Merit Finalist. So I was right on the board. I was super thankful I made it. I also took 4 subject tests, which was kind of a lot. Not my best, just so it's out there, and just so you guys know that you don't have to have these perfect scores. Just know that like even I didn't do very well. World history, not a fun one. I took in sophomore year. I got a 630. I didn't even submit that. And then my Spanish subject test, I got a 750, which is pretty good. I submitted that to most of my schools. And then in 11th grade, I took U.S. history. I got a 600, so I should probably stay away from the history subject test. And then SAT Math 2, I got a 750, which was, I mean, it's alright. A lot of people get 800s on that. It's because it's supposed to be one of the easier tests. Funny story, I was kind of pissed that I got the 750, so I took it again, and I kid you not, I did worse. I got a 640. I got a 640 the second time I took my Math 2 test, which is super embarrassing. Alright, so now on to the ACT. I'll kind of explain the two differences a little bit later. So I took it in February 2016. My composite score was a 34, which is alright. So English I got a 33, mathematics 36, reading 35, science 33, and then on the essay I got a 33, which was kind of a big deal. Not a lot of people I knew did that well, which was surprising. I wasn't super satisfied, so I took it again in April. Managed to get a 35, which I was super hyped about. English got a 34, mathematics 35, reading 35, science 35, and then my writing was a 29. So between the two tests, my mathematics went down a point, and then my writing also went down. So that just kind of goes to show that all the tests vary, meaning that you're going to get different scores based on when you take it, based on the version you have. So obviously don't get discouraged if you don't have the scores you want the first time. I definitely recommend taking it multiple times. You don't want to kind of bank on having only one shot, especially if you're waiting towards the end of the year to take your test. Alright, so now I'll kind of get into SAT versus ACT. Which one should you take? Which one's the right test for you? Personally, I enjoy the ACT. A lot of my friends did a lot better on the ACT. Well, when I say better, I mean relatively better. Like, it was easier to score higher on the ACT scale versus the SAT scale, in my opinion. So obviously a 1500 on the new SAT versus the 35 on the ACT. The ACT is going to carry a lot more weight just because it's only 1 point away from a perfect score. Whereas if you put it in perspective, the SAT is almost 100 points away from a perfect score. For me, I definitely think that the SAT is a lot more like critical reading and a lot more critical thinking. It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, obviously a lot of you guys have taken these tests, but there's just a lot more length and breadth in the text and in the questions. Whereas compared to the ACT, I think the ACT is a lot more straightforward. It's a lot more streamlined. It's more of a time test. So if you're good at taking time tests, then I definitely recommend the ACT. If you need a lot more time to figure out what the question is asking, how to answer it properly, then the SAT might be the one for you. But that's just kind of my opinion. I know that a lot of my friends did better on certain tests versus the other. Funny thing is though, I didn't do test prep for the ACT. I used all the skills I learned in the SAT and transferred them over to the ACT just because they're so similar. The only difference really was the fact that it's a faster pace, meaning that you're gonna have to read the stories a lot faster. You're gonna have to be able to analyze the questions, figure out what they're asking you in a shorter amount of time. I know a lot of people get freaked out about the science section, but in reality, the science section is just another reading section. Basically, all you have to do is just read the passages, find what the questions are asking for, and be able to answer those very promptly. You don't have to have a lot of science background. Science was definitely my worst subject, and I did fine on that part of the ACT. Alright, so part 2, extracurriculars. These play a huge part in the college application process. I would say they're almost as equal to your test scores, if not more important. It's basically what you've done with your time throughout high school, what you've invested yourself in, what you were passionate about, what you had a spark for, and that's what speaks to the college admissions counselors, not numbers. Because I mean, really, to be honest, anyone can study and get a good grade, but that doesn't show the type of person you are, the type of intellectual you are. I mean, there are a ton of statistics out there that show that even people with perfect scores aren't getting into Harvard or Princeton or Yale. And that goes to show that no matter how much you study, and you can get 2,400, 1,600, 36, if you don't have the extracurriculars to balance that out and show that you have a unique story and that you did something with your time, then the colleges are obviously going to prefer someone who had good scores with good extracurriculars compared to really good scores with no extracurriculars, if that makes sense. You want to have a good balance. You want to find the fine line between where can my academics hold me and how much more of my extracurriculars do I have to do. I think the biggest thing about extracurriculars is that you don't want to have these artificial inflated resume padding. Basically what that means is you don't want to join all these clubs just to have it on the resume, just to have it on your application. I mean, the common application only gives you what like 10 spots to fill out your extracurriculars, and you want to make sure all of those are filled with something that was unique, had an impact on you, not something like student council where, I mean, 300, 400 other students were in. Obviously, if you were very well invested in student council and you were a class officer or you spent a lot of time in student council, then obviously put that on your application. Don't put it on there just because you think colleges are going to make it look better. Obviously, they want students to be well-rounded, but they also want students that are devoted to kind of one specific niche or 3 or 4 groups or clubs that they were most passionate about. So as I mentioned in my How to Get Into the Ivy League video, my 2 niches were kind of photography and music, which I'll be going into now. So as far as music, that was probably the biggest thing I was most involved in throughout high school. I had a lot of leadership positions. It was where I spent most of my hours throughout the day. Just because I love playing it, I love being with my friends. I made a lot of friends through that program, and I'm super grateful for it. As far as my leadership positions within my music community, I was the woodwind captain, which is kind of in charge of looking over all the different woodwind instruments, making sure that they're ready for rehearsal, have all the music they need, that they're memorized and ready to go for the show. I was also clarinet section leader, so I was in charge of 40 other students, making sure that everyone felt comfortable, making sure that the freshmen had everything they needed, finding upperclassmen who could help them out, planning parties, doing social things. I was also clarinet squad leader, so I had a group of about 7 to 8 kids that I was texting, making sure that they had everything they needed for rehearsal, reminding them about rehearsal dates, things like that. Outside of band, I was also in the Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra, which is kind of like your elite orchestra that met every Sunday at a local university. It was a super fun time. I was playing a lot of pieces that I wouldn't have. I was doing performances with the Dallas Wind Symphony, which is a huge opportunity that I wouldn't have had without the Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra. And that was a great thing on my application, just to show that I wasn't just doing music at my school, but I found opportunities to reach out and find other musicians at the highest caliber and perform with them. I think that's a big spike that helped me get into a lot of these colleges. Alright, now onto the spike, which in my opinion is probably one of the most key aspects of your application. This is your story, your research opportunity, your internship, your scholarship that really sets you apart from the thousands of other students applying to these schools. It's what you did with your summer over your junior year. It's the internship you got at your local hospital. It's that scholarship you got to travel somewhere. It's the nonprofit organization that you and your friends made at your high school. This is the story that you tell that really sets you apart, that shows that you've done something with your time throughout high school, that you made a significant impact, because that's the most important thing. Colleges want to see that, yes, if we do accept you, how are you going to make an impact? What are you going to do with our resources to really develop your passions? And so for me, my spike was I got a scholarship with National Geographic Student Expeditions to travel to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands for 3 weeks during the summer going into my senior year. It was a $10,000 value scholarship, but it covered everything: my flights, my accommodations, food, hotels. It was the best experience of my life. I was spending 3 weeks going around to these beautiful exotic places, shooting with National Geographic photography experts, and that's really when my photography skills vastly improved. I learned so much from that trip. Not only was I really able to take my photography game to the next level, but it was also a unique opportunity for me to utilize my Spanish that I've been learning. So I took Spanish for 4 semesters throughout high school, and during that trip I was really translating for the entire group. When we were at restaurants, I would be ordering for my friends, or if we needed directions I would ask the locals, and I think that was such a unique opportunity. I wrote my entire comment application about that story, about the time I had, about how my photography helped me land that scholarship, and that was really my spike. Out of all the students that applied, I'm pretty sure only 15 to 20 students got this scholarship. Basically it's a scholarship to travel anywhere you want. If you're interested, I highly recommend checking it out if you're in high school. The website is ngstudentexpeditions.com. They have opportunities all around the world. You can travel anywhere you want basically, and the scholarship honestly opened up so many doors that wouldn't have been possible without it. Alright, so obviously those were the biggest parts of my application. Now I have my resume, so I'll kind of be going through my other awards, honors, distinguishments that kind of helped balance it out, kind of showed that like what I was doing with photography and music was being supplemented by these other activities. Like I said, you don't want to have 4 or 5 different activities. You want to find 1 or 2 specific clubs or organizations that you're really passionate about, that you invest a lot of your time in, and everything that you do in your application should surround that. So I was also president of the photography club at my high school. I would host meetings once a month just discussing different photo techniques, editing. We would go on field trips. I was also a member of the Korean American Youth Leadership Program. I was also a National Merit Finalist. That honestly opened up so many doors. Even though I didn't get scholarship at Princeton, it basically gave me a full ride to Oklahoma University. I could have gotten full tuition at a lot of different state schools. And so if that's an option for you, if you are a National Merit Finalist, I highly recommend looking into a lot of your state schools, because they offer huge scholarships. I mean, Oklahoma will basically give you 4 years of tuition plus a 5th year of research. They pay for all your books, technology, you get like the nicest dorms. So it's a sweet setup. Personally, I didn't get anything out of it, but the title of being a National Merit Finalist really brings a lot to your application. I was also an AP Scholar with distinction, which basically means I got like a 5 on like 6 or 7 AP tests. I don't really know what that is. I was also the FMHS Band Concerto Competition winner. I received the FMHS Band Outstanding Student Leader Award 2 years in a row. I got the FMHS Band Senior Scholarship of $500. I got the Louisville Education Foundation Scholarship for $1,100. I got the Principals Award. I also got the FMHS Senior Spotlight Most Creative Award and the FMHS Senior Best Dressed Male. So, I mean, that's probably the most important thing, right? I was also awarded the Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra Wind Symphony Scholarship. I got first place at the St. Andrew Kim Concerto Competition, and I was also featured in Flymount Magazine Styles article, 6 Seniors to Watch. Basically, they did an interview on myself and 5 other seniors from Flymount and Marcus High School. They did an entire interview with us, kind of gave a summary of the things we were involved in, and that was honestly a really cool opportunity. It was published in the magazines, passed out to everyone in our town, and that was really cool just to see myself in that magazine. Other skills and talents, I took 4 semesters of Spanish so I can speak, read, and write. I also know Korean. I play clarinet, piano, saxophone, guitar. Skills, I'm proficient in Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Lightroom, Final Cut Pro X, Adobe Premiere. So earlier I mentioned you don't want to have too many resume patterns, but what I meant by that is you don't want to spend too much time of your application talking about like these various organizations. Obviously it's great to have them, and you can list them on your resume, you can list them on your application, but you don't want to go too much in depth on that. So for me, that was like my National Honor Society, English Honor Society, Spanish National Honor Society, Science National Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta, which is like Math Honor Society, and Student Council. I was in those for kind of on and off. I was in that from like freshman year to senior year. But honestly, like it literally only takes up like 1 line of my resume, whereas everything else goes more in depth. So yeah. Alright, so those were my scores, those are my statistics. Obviously those are a lot of numbers, a lot of things that may not be applicable to you in your certain situation, but my biggest recommendation is that you find similar things, or you find whatever you can in your nearby area that really accommodate your passions, that really accommodate your talents, and find a way to immerse yourself in the opportunity and include that in your application. If you have a super unique passion and there's not a club for it, then go ahead and make it. So there's a ton of opportunities out there if you really take the time to research, go online, find anything in your area, and a lot of it is 100% just reaching out. You can have more relationships with researchers and professors, and later on they can even write letters of recommendation on your behalf, and that's a huge thing. To have a recommendation letter from someone from that high up is going to say a lot about the time you spent with them, whether it was doing research or an internship or whatever.